Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, yet another Friday. Yet another Friday for us to live, fill in, do what we will with, and I guess we're grateful for that. Let's see how this one starts out. It starts out with blue skies and sunny skies here in Pittsburgh, PA. It is the 18th of March. And we're beginning March Madness. For those of you who are into that, I did not fill out a bracket this year. Usually I do because it just makes it more fun, right? To see how totally inept you are at. I know people who just throw darts at it and do just fine. Thank you very much. So, not that anybody cares. I'm loath to begin because. Did I tell you that I went after the show yesterday? I didn't tell you this. Of course not. How could I? It was after the show yesterday. I got pretty worked up yesterday on the show. And when I left here, my heart was pounding. And I had to go straight to a doctor. I mean, I had an appointment. I had an appointment with a doctor. And so I headed straight for the doctor, and I thought, I'm glad I'm going to the doctor because they're going to take my blood pressure, because I feel like folks, my blood pressure was way up. Don't like that. So I see that this is happening more often, and I refuse to have this show kill me. I mean, I'm going to stroke out someday right here. For people who think that people like me don't necessarily believe what we're saying or this is just a big show, I assure you it's not. Anytime I'm talking, I'm being as honest as I'm capable of being at any given moment. And I was saying yesterday how I have become obsessive about Donald Trump's ascension, obsessed with the drama of it, but more importantly, obsessed with the danger of it. And that son of a bitch might end up killing me. I mean, just the possibility of him becoming president could, I'm going to die. Okay. So, I just want to tell you that, and I'm going to try as much as possible to try to keep my emotions a bit more in check, because this ain't worth dying about. Not yet. Could become worth dying about. So, I'm still obsessed. David Brooks, in today's New York Times, by the way, has a kind of mea culpa, in which he flat out says he missed all of it. I'm so sorry. I didn't understand. I didn't take it seriously. And he's hardly saying that he's alone. He says this. He's talking about the media. We expected Trump to fizzle because we were not socially intermingled with his supporters, and did not listen carefully. Yeah. This is very important what he's saying. Our journalists, in large part now, are removed from that entire swath of America that is so enamored with Donald Trump. They are not socially intermingled. Their paths don't cross. They have no understanding whatsoever of the lives, the feelings, the fears, the emotions of tens of millions of Americans who they supposedly are reporting on. They're supposed to have their ear to the ground. They're supposed to really know what's happening. They're supposed to even be able to sort of warn us that something's coming. We can hear it down the road. And he's saying, we didn't know because we are in a little bubble. This is true. And he said, we didn't listen. The first job of a journalist is exactly that, to listen. These days, we get mixed up because journalists have become celebrities. Journalists populate the cable television news. Journalists are pontificators. Journalists don't so much listen as yap. They talk all the time. Ain't easy. In fact, it's impossible to be a good journalist if you don't shut your own trap and listen. So he says this. For me, it's a lesson that I have to change the way I do my job. If I am going to report accurately on this country. Well, thank you, David Brooks. And I mean it. Thank you. There's no sarcasm in my thank you at all. That shows an ability to look at himself, look at his failings in his profession, and to say, I got to change this. I got to start listening more and stop talking to all my friends who just mirror, my life, my feelings, my reality. I've got to listen if I'm going to do my job. But then he says, then he gets right back up on his soapbox and starts squawking because he says, and yet reality is reality. And Donald Trump is epically unprepared to be president. He has no realistic policies. He has no advisors. He has no capacity to learn. His vast narcissism makes him a closed fortress. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, and he's uninterested in finding out. He insults the office Abraham Lincoln once occupied by running for it with less preparation than most of us would undertake to buy a sofa. Okay, so you've heard of AIPAC. Let me see what AIPAC stands for. American Israeli PAC, Political Action. What's the C? Committee. Maybe. But AIPAC is that big organization of Jewish Americans that does exist as a lobby. What is it?
American Israel Public Affairs Committee.
Oh, America-Israel Public Affairs Committee. Okay. So it exists to essentially as a lobbyist. It exists to lobby Congress, to reach out to the American people in things having to do with Israeli policy, okay? I would argue, as an American Jew, that it doesn't represent me very well and doesn't represent the feelings of an awful lot of American Jews. It's way too right-wing. And way too in the pocket of the Israeli government. So, personally, me, I don't pay any attention to AIPAC. But it's got power, less than it used to. But it has power, and it has a big meeting coming up next week in D.C., a meeting that is an obligatory stop for all people running for the presidency, much like, you know, the CPAC, the conservative PAC, also is a must stop, even though Trump didn't do it this year. But there's a little development. Trump is to speak at AIPAC's convention on Monday. And there is already an organized boycott on the part of dozens, it says, I don't know how many, of rabbis who are going to be not only picketing outside, handing out flyers, but are also asking that anybody inside at least also protest that when Trump comes to speak, they simply stand up silently and leave. So, I think you're starting to see what I was talking about yesterday. I was talking about the Jewish perspective. I was saying, if you want to know where this kind of verbiage and simmering anger and violence and scapegoating can get you, how about asking people who survived the Holocaust? Because they saw this kind of thing. They saw how it started. They saw how it unfolded. And sure enough, if you talk to Holocaust survivors, they're all freaked. The ones that are, they're old, but man, they didn't think for a minute that they would see this same, hear the same kind of sounds, see the same kinds of things, feel the same kind of discomfort and or fear. So I'm not surprised. The Jews are starting to stand up more and more. And that brings us to David Duke. Did you see what David Duke said? David Duke, the same David Duke that Donald Trump doesn't quite know who he is, doesn't want to bat away his support, refuses to condemn the white nationalist, anti-Semite David Duke. Here is what he said. He is freaked out at Obama's choice for the Supreme Court. This is the same choice, of course, Merrick Garland. This is the same choice that the Republicans who control the Congress refuse to even apply the most basic kind of courtesy to, which is to not shut their office doors in his face. This jurist who is, by all accounts, respected by just about everybody. Even if you don't agree with him, you say this guy is a man of just exceptional, indisputable integrity. Which is more than you can say, of course, for the people who are slamming doors in his face. But listen to what David Duke says. I'm going to read from a transcript, verbatim. You already have 3 Jewish members of the Supreme Court. That's 33%. They're only 2% of the population. You can count on these Jews to do whatever the Jew agenda is, whatever the Jew establishment wants. In fact, they probably already have at least 3.5 members on the Supreme Court, because Sotomayor, apparently, according to a lot of sources, has a lot of what they call Sephardic Jewish ancestry, Spanish Jewish ancestry. That's a big problem among some Latino groups. And so that's maybe 3.5 Jews. And now, Obama, who is totally under the power of the Jews, he's been, in fact, there's a reason why the Chicago Tribune calls him the first Jewish president, and why the New Yorker had him as the first Jewish president. All right? He's appointed a Jewish supremacist to be the guy on the Supreme Court, which basically gives Jews total veto over the Supreme Court. As I have said before, there was no more powerful part of the federal government in this country than the Supreme Court. So, the Supreme Court, which is unelected, which is basically elected by political cronies, which is a Jewish-controlled establishment, and money, and media. Whoever gets the praise of the media, whoever gets the money, the media. It's basically something that's really in the power, and you don't have to have an absolute majority. As we can see in elections, you can have a plurality. They've got a plurality in the Supreme Court. The Daily Stormer, which is another wonderful publication coming from the white nationalist movement that also has endorsed Donald Trump. If you go to their website, they also have an entire section titled The Jewish Problem. And it also reacted to the nomination of Merrick Garland with this headline: "Wow! Just wow! Obama nominates Jew." So, I got to tell you, when I heard that, the president made that announcement on Wednesday, and right after the show at 11 a.m., introduced Merrick Garland to us. And so on driving home, I listened on the radio to the president and to Merrick Garland tearfully accept the nomination. And I was absolutely blown away when Merrick Garland started to give a sense of who he was, and said that his grandfather, he said, my grandparents came to this country, the same old story, came to this country from the Pale of Settlement, he said. And I thought, what? The Pale of Settlement? That is a phrase that very few non-Jews know. The Pale of Settlement was this slice of land sort of in between Russia and, Eastern Europe. It's where so many American Jews ancestors came, mine as well, from the Pale of Settlement. My grandmother used to say, when she asked her mother, "Where were you born, Mom?" her mother would say, I don't know. In the morning, you look out the window, you see what flag is flying. They were in a place that was like constantly, 1 minute you're in Poland, the next you're in Germany, then you're in Russia, then you're in Lithuania. Who the hell knows? You're running for your life over here, then you head over there. So you didn't know. But this Pale of Settlement was essentially a European Jewish ghetto. So when he said that, I thought, what? He's Jewish? Merrick Garland? I gotta tell you, Jews sometimes think they know a Jew when they hear a Jew, when they see a Jew. Merrick? What kind of a name is that for a Jew? Garland? So anyway, I was surprised that he was a Jew, frankly. But yes, that does continue the total absence on this court of any Protestant. The court is made up of Catholics and Jews. That's all that's on our court. And with this, that continues. I sort of wanted Obama to go with this Sri, I would have learned the name if he'd gone with Sri, what's his name? Because he is an Asian, an Indian American, and also a Hindu. So at least you would have gotten... I mean, don't think this doesn't resonate with a lot of Protestant Americans, white Protestant Americans, that they who owned the court, there was nobody but white Anglo-Saxon Protestants on the court of the Supreme Court of this country for the first 200 years. That was it. That was it. A little less. And then the first crack was, I believe, Louis Brandeis, the first non-Protestant. And I think you had a Jew on the court before you had a Catholic. I'm not sure. But now there's no Protestants on the court. Ha, ha, ha. That's what I think. Hello.
Hello, Lynn.
Hello.
Hey, you're talking about the justice. Why the Republican Party, how come they didn't bitch about Scalia when he made racist comments and about women? There's a lot of times in history he's done that. And it was okay. Now, Trump's an idiot too, but now Trump's doing some of that, and they don't like it.
Who doesn't like it?
The Republicans. It's all right for Scalia to say what he wants, who was a judge, Supreme Justice, and now that Trump's saying it, I don't really think they care what he says. I think they're pissed because when he gets in there he's not going to do what they want to do.
He's not going to get in there first.
No, I don't think he is.
Secondly,
I'm just saying, that's why they're mad.
No,
they're not. They don't care about the stuff he says. They say that stuff all the time in different ways.
He lacks subtlety. You're right. He is saying what they sort of kind of have in the past. They made the ground fertile for exactly this kind of verbiage. I mean, they did, and so they're just appalled that he has ripped away the curtain and sort of shown them for what they are. Although you'd be hard pressed to. I mean, he really is a particularly vile representation of where a lot of Republican policies and beliefs end up or devolve to. I don't know what to tell you, but no, they don't like him because they know they can't control him. I mean, that's as simple as that.
I had to laugh at him. There was an article about him that he said that Donald Trump just killed the plan for the middle class that the Republican Party had. And I'm thinking, excuse my language, when the fuck did they ever worry about the middle class?
When did they ever have a plan?
Never.
Well, maybe the plan, I think actually that plan leaked. It's called Soylent Green.
Yeah, that might be true.
I don't know. No, I hear you. But man, if the...
It's funny, and I hope they get what they deserve, because after Bush, I think they deserve this. We didn't get to throw them in jail, but at least we can keep winning the presidency.
Okay. Hey, thanks for the call.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So yesterday we came up with this bright idea It's not like other people haven't had it before, but I haven't heard anybody talking about getting this going. And that was that you can go online and you can relatively quickly change your voter registration to Republican. You have until, what was it, March 20-something. You got about a week. Go online, change to Republican, just for the fun of it. And then you are free, of course, to vote in the Republican primary and unable to vote in the Democratic primary. But this would be done for the sole purpose of voting for Kasich. Okay? That will be one less vote, or at least a vote for Kasich. If enough Democrats were to do this, and you understand, you can then change back for the not that the general election matters, but you can change back. You would be taking yourself out of being able to vote in the Democratic primary this time, because your sense is that it's much more important to try to trip up Trump. You could also argue you're doing the Republicans a favor by doing that, so maybe you don't agree with that strategy. I don't know. But here is one of our listeners wrote, I changed my registration yesterday. It was very easy to do on the state website. You have to have your driver's license number, which goes on the form. A friend of mine at work is going to do it too. Okay, there's 2 votes. My thinking is vote for whoever is the highest in the polls who isn't Trump. Okay, even if gag, it's Ted Cruz. Okay, that's legitimate. I don't know why I'm assuming that it'll be Kasich. Because Cruz and Trump sort of appeal to the same cohort. And because Kasich is our next-door neighbor, I don't see him winning Pennsylvania. We're talking about Pennsylvania Republicans here. And they're a pretty creepy lot. So I do see him going Trump. But we can try. And if Pennsylvania is not a winner-take-all, is it? Why don't I know that? The more votes we can, if it's not winner-take-all, we can have an impact here. You're just trying to keep Trump from that 1236 number. And the guy who changed his registration also says, now that I'm a registered Republican, I suddenly have an opinion on the capital gains tax. Do you find yourself looking down your nose at people? Has a sudden personality change overcome you? Anyway, it's a thought. And my rant yesterday about how Democrats have got to stop sitting on their asses and do something. Hand-wringing doesn't count. Ranting and raving don't count. Do something. Hit the ground for Hillary. Change your registration. Run for political office at a low level and start getting people who feel that, enough's enough and we got to get all these Republicans out of our legislatures. We got to take things back. The Republicans are the one, we got to take our country back. We have to take our states back, our school boards back. Democrats are just angers me. So Roger, who's one of our emailers and listeners, he says the rant got him yesterday, and he thinks he is going to run for school board where he lives. He says, I attend all the meetings, I've been thinking of it, and I'm thinking, I don't want to do it. And he said, and you made me see, no, I need to do it. So we've changed a few registrations here. We maybe got Roger running for school board in his bailiwick. Let's keep it up and get all those young people who are going to be depressed because their Bernie isn't going to get the nomination. Make them understand that it's a long road they're on, and plenty of bumps. And the only way they can ensure that someone like Bernie will eventually get the nomination is to infiltrate the system. That's how it works. Run for office. Get inside. It's a lot less exciting, perhaps, than, picketing or screaming or having fun at rallies, but it's how you get power. It's how you get a seat at the table. It's how you take over. And it takes time. Barbara Wright, as we get older, stress often changes the way we breathe. Oh, you're trying to help me here, huh? When we are stressed, our bodies operate on the fight or flight response to whatever is scaring us. This means we take short, sharp breaths to help prepare for the fight. Yeah, that's probably what happened to me yesterday. I was getting ready to take down Donald Trump, and my breath got shallow, and my adrenaline was going, and I walked out of here, and I was a little lightheaded, and my heart was pounding, and it's awful. Getting old's a bitch. Okay. Oh, Henry's writing about my blood pressure, too. You're not the only one obsessed with Donald Trump. These primaries, GOP, Hillary, and Bernie, isn't any wonder that your blood pressure's high. The collective blood pressure of the voting pool is surely in the unhealthy range. Every hour, it seems, there is breaking news. And when we tune in, we find the breaking news is merely Trump's latest tweet. Yeah. The media, the complicit media, is leading us by the nose through this election season, and we're allowing it. Margie's telling me go to the movies. I'm going to. I think that is a good idea. I think there's nothing I want to see, though. I think like a Zootopia. That seems like the best bet. Huh? Okay. You see Anonymous is going after Trump now, too? Man, they've released his social security number, a bunch of phone numbers. I'm no fan of Anonymous generally, as you know. But heck, if they're bugging him, I got no problem with it. I don't know what it accomplishes, but whatever. All right, we were talking about the Supreme Court, sort of, kind of, yeah. Those Jews. Jews and Catholics, that's all that's on that court. What is it, 3 Jews and 5 Catholics? Yeah. And if Merrick were to get on, it'd be 4 Jews and 5 Catholics. Truly not representative of the population we talk about diversity all the time, and you're not thinking, oh, we need a white Protestant. Well, could be we've diversified so much it wouldn't be bad to have a white Protestant, I don't know. It's fascinating. And, of course, what's fascinating is all of the Catholics, save Kennedy, who is the swing, are the conservatives on the court, and the Jews, of course, are the liberals on the court. So who's going to be before the Supreme Court Wednesday, next week? The Catholics of Pittsburgh. Are you aware of that? I don't know that we've been paying a lot of attention to this, but the Pittsburgh Catholic Diocese is going to be arguing before the Supreme Court, all 8 of them, on Wednesday. And this is the case that has to do with Obamacare. This is the case that Bishop Zubik created. And this one's his baby. And he is arguing that the way Obamacare works requires that Catholic agencies have to end up essentially making access to birth control possible. Oh, gosh, no, not birth control. Well, I'll take that to the Supreme Court. First of all, it is well known that the vast majority of American Catholics practice birth control. So this is one of those rules that the church has that no Catholic pays much attention to. Every once in a while some do, but basically not. But this is the result of, right over here, I can actually see it from here, Catholic Charities. They're in that building with that wonderful red onion roof, I believe. Catholic Charities, over there on Liberty, I guess. Yeah? The executive director of Catholic Charities is a woman named Susan Rauscher, and she's the one who freaked out with Obamacare and gave Zubik a call and said, "Oh my God, I have 100 employees over here." And what Catholic Charities does, good works. They have a free dental clinic for the poor. They have a free medical clinic. They do homeless work, emergency assistance. They do some lunch programs. Good stuff over there. And it is a separate organization from the church itself. And most of its employees and the people it serves are not Catholic. Okay? They're just people who work there or who get services there. But Catholic parishes support Catholic Charities. And so church money from the churches goes over there. However, most of, or at least half of the money that Catholic Charities uses comes, guess where? From where? Guess. The government. It comes from government grants. So the Supreme Court's going to have to reach a decision on whether or not Obamacare's contraception requirements in some way cross the boundaries of religious freedom. Now, let me tell you something. Since Antonin Scalia shuffled off his mortal coil, this is a tougher case for Zubik. That was a sure vote. Good Catholic that Scalia was. That was a sure, with his 5,000 children, too, because he didn't practice birth control. That there is no doubt that I think Zubik was going to win this. It's less certain now. It's 4-4. So the 8 justices on Wednesday will weigh how far the government has to go to accommodate people like Catholic Charities that are affiliated with a religion that says that contraception is a sin. Zubik says there's no way Catholic Charities should have to have access to contraception in its health care plan that it provides its workers. Well, then, you know what I would say? I mean, okay, fine. Then give your government grants back. You can't have it both ways, okay? Then give your goddamn government grants back. Jesus, all this over a friggin' rubber. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Chuck writes, Lynn, I switched my party yesterday, affiliation. Hey! Got something happening here. It was easy and the form was not complicated. I agree with your emailer. You have to cast your vote for whoever's trailing Trump when the polls are taken before the Pennsylvania primary. Because the goal here is to force a brokered convention. Even if it's Cruz in second, you will want him to win Pennsylvania. Voting for third-place candidates does not help the cause, right? You want to... But somebody tell me, we're not a winner-take-all, huh? We're not a winner-take-all state. Jeez, I should know this stuff. These kinds of facts do not stay in my head. Joe Allen says I can't change my registration because she cares too much about the Democratic primary. She wants to vote for Sestak. So she will not be changing her registration. I feel very strongly about that. Okay, I completely understand that. Boy, talk about a guy taking on the establishment. There is not one Democratic office holder that I am aware of that has endorsed Joe Sestak. You would think he was some kind of bizarre pariah. What he is instead, of course, is an extremely intelligent, extremely hardworking, serious man who has held office before, has served in the Congress, is a 3-star admiral, is an admirable admiral in every way. But he didn't do what the party wanted him to do, and man, they're gonna squish him like a bug. They've been, and my guess is they will succeed, but I don't know. And then it doesn't help to have Fetterman in. Once Fetterman threw his hat in, I thought that Sestak, any chance he had, is gone. Because those are both anti-establishment votes, and it just gives McGuinty, an easy path. She's got all the endorsements. She just walks right in. So there you have it. Ray writes, Lynn, sorry, but I disagree with you about changing registrations. Let the Republicans clean their own house. We'll beat whoever they put up, and Trump will put their lies to the test of daylight. You propose that we need to get involved in local politics, but tell us to abandon the vote that decides who we put up as Democrats against Toomey. Every progressive Democrat that moves to Republican to vote against Trump is one less vote for Sestak. Okay, 2 of you called me on it. I'm just trying to be strategic, and what did George W. strategery? My strategery tells me that because of Fetterman, Sestak's slim chance has gone to nearly none. And so I still think mucking up the Republicans might be a good idea. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Clarence, hi.
Speaking of Joe Sestak, have you seen his commercial?
Yeah, what does the 6 stand for?
I don't know, but did you notice that the one guy in there is sissy white liberal?
No.
Tom is in his commercial.
Is he? Why am I not surprised? Okay, I'll have to look again. But
It's he's like 5 seconds in.
Okay, sissy white liberal, for those of you who are relatively new to the program, was a frequent caller to my radio shows, and actually Clarence and he met because of the show, right?
That's right. We've
That's
never
right.
known Tom if it wasn't for the show.
Right. And Tom, taking a page out of my book, actually ran for office, ran against, Murphy.
Yeah. Well,
Congressman Murphy.
He never made it through the primary, so that he was going to run against Murphy, but he lost during the primaries.
Right. He lost to the person who went on to lose to Murphy.
Exactly.
But he was he a chastened soul. After that, he was so traumatized by what he learned.
The insider thing.
The insider thing. What he learned about how the parties work. He learned about party politics.
Yeah. I remember just telling him, I said, you are way too nice of a guy to see what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Mortified. Yeah. Sissy
yeah,
white.
As a matter of fact, there was almost a group of us who not really, didn't give up on the politics things, but although the guy who emailed you was right, that's the way to change things, is to be on the inside.
Yeah.
But there was probably like 5 of us who was working on his campaign and other campaigns said, oh, my God. It just kind of got out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, it's time to get back in my opinion. I think that's why I think he's kind of helping with the Sestak campaign. But he's in the commercial.
Well,
he's lost so much weight you might not recognize.
Oh, really? Really?
yeah. He's a thin dude. Yeah, but he has on a hat, and it's about 5 seconds in. He's one of the people talking.
Yeah, but he always had rather extreme musculature. Does he still?
Yeah, he still has the musculature, but it's smaller. It's not as He's probably my size. He's probably closer to my size.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he was always called sissy white liberal. Then you meet the guy, and he looks like, you wouldn't want to bump into
he
him
was like
in
a
dark
Marvel
alley.
superhero.
Yeah, right.
He was like a Marvel superhero.
Oh, God,
The funny
jeez.
thing is, I always say this is what I told him. I said, this is what Hitler was trying to make.
Yeah, right. He looks like exactly the perfect Aryan, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what he looks like.
And is way more liberal than anybody I know.
Yeah, exactly. And he worked on a nuclear sub. I mean, he's a Navy
he's a
vet,
Navy
too.
vet, yeah.
Well, that's what he and Sestak must be, really tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's in Philadelphia now, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
just perfect. Okay, well, thanks for pointing that out, and I'll definitely look for.
Okay. You know what? I have a link to the commercial. Want me to email it to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, so Roger writes, if Zubik is Zubik going to sing the Monty Python song as part of his case? Which one? The only one I know is, which I think is one of the funniest things ever done, is always look on the bright side of life when they're on the crucifix. I mean, isn't that, that's what they're saying. That is too friggin' funny. Anyway, the musical scene in The Meaning of Life that showed the contrast between the English Protestant home and the Catholic home, where the dad had to sell off the children for scientific experiments since he lost his job. That scene was funny, but it spoke to many truths, and I guess this is part of the song in that one. Every sperm is sacred. Every sperm is great. If a sperm is wasted, God gets quite irate. Monty Python. Oh, dear. Okay, what else we got here? I have. All right. A few little tidbits, okay? And Barbara. Barbara wants to explain. I just happened to see his Sestak's thing last night for the first time, and it was something about six. And they're holding up signs that say 6, and I thought, what is that? I missed the beginning, so I don't know what it was. And Barbara says it was explained in the commercial, stands for got your back in the military. Oh. Has something to do with posture. Yeah, but if it has to be explained, I don't know how good that is. But I didn't see it, so okay. And Tim writes, Lynn, your emails are correct that your strategy addresses the presidency but ignores everything else. I know. That seems to contradict the end of the show. All right, caught me. When you said we needed to address all of the other elected offices, you're right. Aw, shit. Okay, well, I think you guys maybe want... I don't know. Everybody figure it out for themselves. And there's not a wrong thing to do. Just do what you think you have to do, but get involved. Take action. Stop sitting. I don't care if... Nobody quite knows what the right thing is. I mean, you see the fumbling and hysteria in all quarters now, but people feeling like they have to act. The rabbis now saying, we got to get up, we got to walk out, you got to do this. And people are, the Republicans flipping out. What are we going to do? Here's my fear. Here's my fear. I mean, we might end up hurting ourselves here by screwing with the Republicans. I don't know. My fear is they do get their brokered convention, and they draft Ryan. I think he would be a much more formidable candidate than Cruz or Kasich. And so it does scare me. Because it's easier if... Now I'm rethinking this. It's easier if Trump wins, isn't it? If he gets their nomination, because Hillary can beat him. I'm not so sure she beats other people. She's a lousy candidate, guys. But if you have her running against evil incarnate, then she can do it. So maybe we shouldn't be trying to save the Republicans. And as Ray says, let them clean their own damn house. They made the mess. Let them clean it up. And let us hope that they don't do it so that Trump is their nominee. It destroys their party, and he goes down to defeat in the general election. So maybe, all right, sorry, I'm just thinking out loud here. I don't want the Republicans to stop him, because I do have faith that America will not elect him. I don't know. Ansel says, in the 2008 primaries, Rush Limbaugh started a nationwide movement asking Republicans to switch their party affiliation and vote for Hillary because he felt Hillary would be easier to beat than Obama. Changing party affiliation is not a new strategy. Well, I know it's not. By the way, seems we don't hear from that blowhard much anymore. Limbaugh? Well, he doesn't have the clout he used to, and his audience is shrinking, and the stations that carry him are shrinking. He definitely is in decline, no doubt about it. Anything else? Yeah, we got, okay, that's it. I just so love the South. Licensed gun owners who are 21 and older would be able to carry concealed weapons on public college campuses in Georgia if the governor signs the bill. Can you imagine? Now, I mean, I'm serious. You're sitting in a lecture hall. How many, and there could be like 10 loaded guns in the room with you. Imagine being a professor standing up in front of a class. And you know, this is a time in people's lives when they can be less than stable. Jesus, what are people thinking? The Georgia Senate, in its wisdom, passed the bill 37-17. Not even close. The bill's sponsor, a Republican, said the bill would promote safety. Yeah. We know Texas has done this. Utah's done it. And guess what? There's no training whatsoever required to receive a concealed weapon license. Well, you can't even give a manicure without a license. Why the hell? Oh, and this just in, the NFL has finally fessed up. This was actually front page news on, a few days ago. It was at a hearing of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, and it says, perhaps no one will remember the setting, the hearing room, but something was said there that could profoundly affect the country's most popular sport, because for the first time, someone from the NFL acknowledged that football is dangerous to your health. And a lot of people are saying what happened, this was on Monday, what happened Monday was as big as when Big Tobacco finally in 1997 stopped their ridiculous charade and confessed, it also in a Senate hearing, that indeed, we finally admit it, smoking causes cancer and heart disease. So the NFL has reversed itself, and when asked if there was the question was, is there a link between head injuries suffered in the NFL and degenerative brain disease? And the answer from the NFL official was certainly yes. that's the first time they've said that. And as you know, there's a case brought by former players against the NFL, which is under appeal, I believe, because the NFL is not paying damages to all players that were in its employ who turned out to have this brain disease. They're only paying damages to players who are found with CTE before the settlement was approved. So in other words, if a player today finds out he's got it, they're saying, we ain't paying you a dime. So the attorneys are now saying this acknowledgement by the NFL changes the game. If the NFL now accepts what science has known for some time, that there is this direct link between injury and CTE, and given that the settlement fails to compensate people who get the disease right now or who will get it in the future, that this is not going to stand. More broadly, the NFL's public position could influence other levels of football because many college, high school, and youth leagues take their cues from the league. I don't know. So we got a change there. The NFL is still despicable. I want to let you know that. Totally despicable. They have a campaign going aimed at parents, trying to keep them funneling their kids into the system and assuring them that their kids will be safe. At the same time, they make this admission about the link between their sport and serious brain disease, which they have acknowledged affects as many as 1/3 of all of their players. Incredible. So there's that. I got anything else here? Just a quickie, just so you have some information. The Supreme Court has been in the news a lot, and there has been an interesting study done that shows, in fact, that even if the court gets more liberal, and even if the court, let's say, lets Merrick Garland on, there has been such a systemic change in law schools in the last 20 years and case law regarding businesses and corporations that now even liberal justices are voting with corporations. Just because you put liberals on, they're liberals in many ways, but generally not when it comes to business. And when you look at that, it's pretty scary. I've been talking about how the court has essentially taken away the right of people to band together class action suits. It turns out if you look at the rulings that have done that, there have been supposedly liberal justices who have joined with the majority in those cases. Both Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan have been moderates on matters involving business, meaning they're quite willing to listen to the business argument and also increasing partisanship of the Senate, which makes Democratic presidents making nominations go for moderates. So they have a chance of getting a nominee through. So there you get exactly Merrick Garland rather than a more dyed-in-the-wool liberal. You get, in fact, moderates. But they blame John Kenneth Galbraith, who is a leading this study, a leading liberal economist. John Kenneth Galbraith, 1970s. He argued that a frontal attack on big business was passé. It's a commie thing, and we got to stop doing that. And that the government's focus should be on maximizing economic growth instead of going after corporations. And they said liberals should make their peace with corporations and simply oversee them through regulation as if they were utility companies. And that is what's happened. It's the Democrats who have pulled away and become much more corporatized, understanding the terrible problems that large corporations have in this country. And I don't know. It's a very difficult. I don't have time to really describe it, but just so you know, when we're talking about progressives on the court, we're not necessarily talking about progressives when it comes to issues involving the economy and corporations. Even the liberals are in their pockets. Well, that's a bummer on which to end, isn't it? Anyway, there you have it, I think. And I hope you have a great weekend. Bundle up. It's going to get cold again. And we'll see you again on Monday, okay?
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.